Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, and you're watching TechStrong TV on Wednesday, April 15th. Guys, so we're in week 3 of our TechStrong TV adventure, and I got to tell you, today's episode might be the biggest and best one we've done yet. We've got not one, but 2 big breaking stories to go over with you. One involves an acquisition and renaming of a large company that's going to be a player in the end-to-end DevOps space, and I'm going to tell you more about that in just a moment. And then we have a conversation with another CEO of a large player in the end-to-end DevOps space, our friend Sid Cibrandi at GitLab, and we're going to talk with Sid then. And that might be enough for just a regular show, but wait, there's more. After our conversation with Sid, we're going to take a look at some of the news highlights for the day. And then we have our working from home fitness with Jeremy Jones. That'll be the second episode Jeremy's done on this. So if you guys want to get ready for a little workout, and as we do with the working from home fitness, it is available on techstrong.tv. Separately, so you can do a good workout at your leisure, maybe this evening or whenever you feel like it. While you're on TechStrong.tv, do sign up for our Slack channel. You can just pop your email in and grab an invite to techstrongtv.slack.com and join in the conversation around our show. We're looking to build that up. We'd love to hear from you. After Jeremy, though, Charlene, talk about big stories. Charlene O'Hanlon has Jim Rose, Circle CI CEO, announcing $100 million in Series E funding to Circle CI. And again, another player in the CI/CD end-to-end DevOps space. You know what? Things are just popping in this DevOps realm, guys. And so Charlene is going to be meeting with Jim Rose. And then we're over to Mitchell at the Analyst Corner. Mitchell's going to be talking about, as the U.S. state by state is sort of formulating plans to reopen the economy, what changes are likely to stick, how it will affect you, and he does a good job on that. And then finally, we're going to have my partner and co-founder at DevOps Institute, CEO Jane Grohl. And Jane is going to discuss this month's topic of the Humans of DevOps Skill Up Month. It's value stream management. And Jane, I'm sure, will do a great job with that. You'll enjoy it. Anyway, we'll be right back with all of this big news, a quick commercial, and stand by.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
Okay, back here in the studio. As I promised you, we're breaking a big story this morning. A couple months back, we announced the merger of CollabNet version 1 along with Zibia Labs. We were lucky to have Ashok Reddy and Derek Langone. Ashok, the CEO of the new company, Derek, CEO of Zibia, now president of the new company. And they mentioned at that time that they weren't done with acquisitions and that there would be a renaming of this, or a naming of the new company going forward, as they sought to be a bigger player in the end-to-end DevOps space. So today we have an announcement from Ashok about an acquisition and the name of this new entity. It'll be called Digital.ai, but I'm going to let Ashok tell you more. Let's now go to the interview and we'll take it from there.
This is Digital Anarchist.
Hi, everyone. It's Alan Schimmel for TechStrong TV and DevOps.com. Thanks for joining us on this segment. We're going to be breaking some big news today in the world of DevOps. Let me first introduce our guests, and then we'll jump right into it. First of all, we've interviewed him multiple times in the past at various companies. Mr. Ashok Reddy. Ashok, welcome.
Great to be here, Alan.
Yes. And joining us with Ashok today is a newcomer to our TechStrong TV DevOps.com broadcast, but Mark Lorian. Mark, welcome.
Hi, Alan. Nice to join you today.
Thank you for joining us, and a pleasure to have you here. Mark, I'm going to ask you to just sit tight for 1 second as I kind of lay the foundation. So as those of you who watch our video and follow along on DevOps.com know, a couple months ago, CollabNet merged with Zibia Labs to form what was the beginning of an end-to-end play in the DevOps space, combining a lot of the CollabNet developer tools, value stream management, and of course Zibia's enterprise grade and class CI/CD product line. At that time, Ashok, we interviewed you, Ashok, of course, and you mentioned that the entity was going to have a new name. It wouldn't be CollabNet, it wouldn't be Zibia, it was going to be something totally new. And so we're here to break, first of all, the name, which is always nice to do in naming, but more importantly, perhaps even, or as importantly, is to announce another acquisition into this family, as you continue to build out the vision here for an end-to-end DevOps company. So Ashok, I'm going to let you share with our audience the news.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. First of all, I want to thank everybody who is dealing with the current COVID situation, with especially the first responders and all the medical workers. So I think, first of all, I'm excited about the company. We are launching the new company, which is called Digital.ai. Because it's really focused on, every company is going through digital transformation, and increasingly they're using data and AI to differentiate themselves, to provide more of a personalized experiences. And that's really the focus, is really more helping enterprise companies. How can they transform not only in terms of just digital, but also increasingly using AI and machine learning to provide secure digital experiences.
Excellent. Excellent. So Digital AI, I love the name, first of all, because I think it gets right to the heart of what this whole thing is about, and that's about digital transformation in the broader sense and everything that comes in with it. But of course, the news today, as I alluded to, Ashok, isn't just that you picked a name. And we've got a domain, I assume, and a nice logo and everything else. Share with us the rest of the story.
Yeah, no, I think I'm extremely excited about. I think, Alan, you had asked me about this when we met last time. You said, "Hey, you're talking about the enterprise DevOps, but there's a missing piece." You said there is a security, which is always with the DevSecOps, which we know that security has to be a key part of the value customers deliver when they transform to become digital. So Arcsan Technologies is a company we have acquired, and we are very excited because it brings a couple of things. One is it really enables people who are building digital applications to harden those applications, and more people are protecting their applications within the enterprise. But what happens today is when you deploy these applications into the wild, you have mobile apps. Increasingly, everybody uses mobile devices, Internet of Things. And these things could be jailbroken phones. So how do you prevent things from being reverse engineered? How do you make sure that there is privacy issues? And today, if you look at what's happening with in the last few days on Zoom, you have a great experience with app. Everybody is using it, but then there's lots of security issues, and they're not able to deliver new features. And so if you are adopting DevOps without security, you are going to now be stopped because security is all they can do. So Arcsan is the industry leader. They protect more than 5 billion application endpoints today. And I'll have my colleague, Mark, talk about it in a little more detail later.
Fantastic, Ashok. So you're right. I mean, I did think that it was crying out for the DevSecOps element to it. And we should mention that doing all these acquisitions, mergers are great. Someone has to write a check, and it's the folks at TPG, I believe is their name, right? Is the PE group, who's one of the largest in the world behind a lot of different, not just in technology, a broad base of portfolios. And so TPG is the PE partner here. But let's dig into Arxan. And Mark, you were CEO of Arxan, is that correct?
No, I was the chief operating officer of our.
Okay, COO.
Yep.
So I have to confess, I'm not familiar with Arxan prior to this acquisition. I don't know if our audience is. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little of sort of the arc, how you guys got to here today.
Yes, happy to. And I would say there's a very, very high likelihood that we're protecting several applications that you use in your life. Because we're a security provider, it's often the case that we can't broadcast the name of our customers, but some of the world's largest banks, as an example, digital media companies, gaming companies, travel, hospitality, manufacturing companies use Arxan in-app protection to protect their applications as they are deployed out into the wild. And I think we share a very common DNA with Ashok and the digital.ai team in that we're trying to help organizations and enterprises specifically protect their most important applications. And as companies are going through these large-scale digital transformation projects, our vision is that all applications that are part of these transformation projects have security baked into them during the DevOps process so that companies are automatically sharing protected and safe versions of applications, and they have the visibility coming back into their DevOps infrastructure in terms of how those applications are being used and consumed out in the wild.
So just, Mark, our audience tends to be a little bit on the technical side. So saying we protect applications is a mouthful. Can you give us a little bit more detail in how you protect applications? Is it code review? Is it vulnerability scanning? Is it post-deployment WAFs, application monitoring? How exactly you're protecting applications?
Sure. Yeah, happy to go as deep as you and your audience want. So our technology it's basically baked into the application, really at the binary level. So this is why we're such a great fit with DevOps processes. And as Ashok and I say, the Arxan capabilities are bringing the sec to DevSecOps in terms of our platform and how our value stream management platform is going to be evolving. So generally during the build process of an application, the security controls get baked into and built right into the application itself. So now we're going to be working with tools throughout our value stream management portfolio to bake in that application into the application itself, into the binary code, as the apps are built, as they are orchestrated and deployed out into the enterprise, or they're deployed out into public consumption, as is the case with a publicly available banking application, as an example. So there's versions of those apps that are baked in, that have the security baked in at a very low level. That makes it very difficult for bad actors to go in and reverse engineer the application, to open it up, to gain access to sensitive data, the IP in the application itself. So the app is really traveling with the protection it needs.
So security controls baked right in as part of that software development lifecycle. Prior to the acquisition, did you guys integrate with like Zibia, for instance, a Zibia Lab type of environment?
Yeah, we are just like digital.ai. We have been targeting the enterprise. So we're used by a whole variety of DevOps tools inside the enterprise, so that the security is again, it becomes part of the application during that DevOps process. So we share many common personas and customers in common in terms of the way that the tools are operating. Now, what you're going to see over the coming year is tighter integration. There'll be some preformed integration, so our customers are going to get onboarded much more quickly. There may be versions of our protection that gets available for customers using some of the products throughout the portfolio. And we think digital.ai now has a number of different on-ramps in being able to sort of start with a certain set of our capabilities and helping customers to leverage a broader set across the portfolio as their deployments become larger and more sophisticated.
Very good. So, Mark, I'm going to turn back to Ashok in a second, but let me just say this. I've sold a few companies in my entrepreneurial lifetime, and someone who I respected a lot once told me the best 2 days is when you found a company and when you sell a company, and you do a merger. It's sort of like boats. So congratulations to you and the whole Oxan team joining this new digital AI family. And, it's a great thing when someone values your company to the point where they're willing to pay what you find fair value, whether it be by throwing your lot in for a bigger pie, right? As we used to always say in the VC business, a smaller slice of a much bigger pie, or whatever it is. Really, people recognize your hard work and value and what you guys have built, and so congratulations on that.
Thank you. For me, it's not an exit. This is a critical milestone in the company, and there's so many opportunities. I think enterprises now, as they go through these big digital transformation projects, they need partners like Digital.ai, and Arxan capabilities becoming part of the platform. It's going to allow our technology and solution to serve a much broader range of use cases in enterprises. And I think the product line is going to gain from that, but also contribute and help our now bigger organization deliver a tremendous amount of value and really power meaningful transformations as enterprises are rethinking the way they serve customers, the way they serve their employees and their partners. And we can make that digital transformation something that they feel confident about because it's got security and visibility as an integral part of the apps.
Perfect. Ashok, I'm going to turn over to you now and say, okay, here's another, looks like, a pretty big block in the building, in the erector set here. What's the vision now? Where are we going? How's this all come together?
Yeah, no, I think, it's a great, this thing. I think part of this is, I think, Alan, what we have found is that, with all the things what people have been doing in the last few years in DevOps, I think a lot of the focus has been about improving, how do I try to drive efficiency and effectiveness in terms of the whole software development process and applying lean approach. But at the end of the day, DevOps, when you look at the end, it is really about delivering value, right? It's about to me, it's not about continuous integration of software, continuous delivery of software, but software on its own doesn't deliver outcomes. So you have to tie it back into the outcomes, which is really the value. So to some extent, I think our vision is very simple. It's really about how do we focus on connecting the outcomes to the outputs, right? Because in the DevOps, people focus on velocity and how many story points did I create and what my scans were. But it's great that you have a set of outputs, but those things need to be tied to the customer journey and how many customers are they engaged? Are they improving the revenue because of, whatever the output is connected to that? So to some extent, in a simple way, I will say it's all about turning outputs to outcomes and trying to drive, DevOps is, many people understand software, but when you go to line of business, people are driving the businesses in different industries. They're kind of trying to say, hey, how do I drive something which is more of a digital business, which is different than traditional manufacturing where I just have to make more things to drive my revenue. Here, it's not about making more things. It's about driving the outcome, and it needs to provide security. It needs to provide great experience. And then there's a lot of data across the entire thing, which I can use to make decisions, empower people. So how do you measure knowledge work? That's the big challenge most of the businesses struggle with compared to lean manufacturing, because it's not about, hey, I decide to make more of these things versus now you have to ensure in an agile perspective, people are empowered and they're able to kind of focus on the outcomes and they understand the feedback. So to me, it's about providing that continuous delivery of value with a way to capture the value. So that's really the vision. And so we have some of these pieces now, and you can start seeing some of the other capabilities which we could acquire, but also build out the platform where companies can focus on their core competency versus trying to integrate best of breed tools and open source and others, which we do. We do allow people to use whatever they have, but you need to provide a way for them to drive outcomes versus just outputs.
Understood. So, Ashok, you're right. And even within DevOps, right? Sometimes we get too focused on velocity, how many releases a day or a month or a week or whatever it is. But, just because I release 10 times a day and you only release one time a day or daily, right, doesn't mean that I'm doing better than you. It's what's best for your company. And so in the knowledge system game that we all work in technology, we sometimes tend to lose sight of that, right? Are we doing what's right for our company, not what was written in a book for something else or whatever. You got to do what's right for your environment, for your at your cadence, and so forth. The other thing is, look, you've got some great tools now here. We've got a great tool set in digital.ai, but it's more than tools that make a company, it's people as well. Sounds like Mark is staying on, and he'll assume a position within the new organization. We've got Derek Langone, right? Former, CEO of Zibia, who's now president. What about the rest of the team? Can you give us any insight into at least at the exec level?
Yeah, no, at the exec level, we have, obviously, we hired a chief revenue officer who came from IBM, Rob Lamb. He used to run the DevOps in IBM, and he's now our chief revenue officer, started about a week ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Yes, and then we also have, several people. Basically, at this point, the people like Stephen Gregorio, who you knew, CFO, he's our CFO for the digital.ai company. And TJ Randall, who is going to be our chief experience officer from a customer success perspective. He came from Zibia. And so what we are going to do is, Arxan is just integrating. So we will be looking at, there are some really great leaders in each of the companies we acquire. So we'll continue to evolve and expand our leadership team to bring on, and like somebody like Mark, for example, is going to manage our value stream platform as the COO of the platform. So we will bring additional people as we buy companies. We may end up adding to our leadership team, but same thing at the next level down. So the advantage we have is we have got some great passion. People are coming in and they want to do the right things, and so there's plenty to do for everyone. But also we are trying to say, okay, let's kind of take a look at all the companies we are acquiring and who can try to drive the right outcomes for our customers and as well as our company.
Sure. I'm reminded when I helped put together a company called Interliant that was based up in Boston, Cambridge, and we did 30 acquisitions in 36 months. And it was very much that. As we bought these companies, it was kind of a jigsaw puzzle on the people, who stays, who goes, what role, new roles, and so forth. Ashok, you referenced potential other acquisitions. Is it safe to say then that you're not done on acquiring?
I think, obviously, our first job number one is to make sure that we're integrating all the capabilities we have bought in this platform, and we're coming up with some new business models where people can consume persona based. But we are very actively looking to acquire other companies. And I think today's environment with COVID, one of the, at least for us, it's a positive thing is that we are able to get much better valuations for the companies we need to acquire also. So it has kind of given us an opportunity to really look at who else we can add. And TPG, as you said, is one of the top 5 PE firms. They're actually by revenue, they're in the Fortune 10 companies in terms of the TPG portfolio companies. So what we are doing is to say, let's kind of take a look at in this environment, what other companies we can go after, but obviously balance that with integrating and making sure our customers are getting value. And now that we have one company, one platform, it makes it a little more easier. Before it was kind of, everyone has, you think about acquisitions, it's at the end of the day, it's a people business. We want to make sure everyone is coming into the company is got the roles and they've got the respect of, working, and, cultures, how do you integrate different cultures, coming up with common shared values and vision. I think to me, that's something we are doing right now, but I do think we'll quickly, be able to also acquire additional companies, and we'll be announcing that here.
Sure. Yeah, Alan, I'd say, I think our view is that the pandemic is really going to speed up every enterprise's desire and need to digitally transform. And I think, with Ashok and throughout the management team and the organization at digital.ai, I think our shared mission is that we believe that we can bring a lot of benefit to enterprises as they're thinking through how they do that and how they prepare to digitally transform. We think we've got a great set of capabilities in our platform. is going to be really helpful in helping companies make that transition.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we're already seeing in just a few weeks that this whole COVID thing has popped up, and like a wildfire, is that companies that were already on their way with their digital transformation, that were already adopting DevOps and Agile and Lean IT and so forth, are in a much better state to deal with what we're doing here, right? With everyone working from home, with changing patterns and market conditions and valuations and everything we're talking about. I'd like to throw this out at both of you, which is, hey, while it does create potentially some bargains because cash will be king when these kinds of situations pop up, it also creates some challenges at a time when you want to integrate. We can't even all sit around the same table, right? Other than on Zoom like this. Challenges, obstacles, or opportunity. I mean, in every room full of pony manure, there's a pony in there somewhere. So how do you make lemonade out of that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a very it's important question. I think to us, when we look at our colleagues worldwide, one thing is we are in an industry which allows, it's easier for us. I mean, fortunate, at least in the context of how people can work remotely. And there are some challenges, at least from engaging. We are in multiple countries, but for most part, I think people have been able to work together and, be able to do that. But I think acquiring companies has been a challenge just because you can only do so much or remote and Zoom and others, because it's about people and you want to meet people, and if you want to go to different countries, there are different centers. So that is something we are learning in a different way, where we kind of leverage local contacts to work with people and be able to look at more from a customer outcome perspective. Again, you try to drive technology and everything else from it. So it's yeah, I think we're trying to learn. It is at the same time, I don't think it will completely stop acquisitions and others, because we are doing several of these due diligence sessions and things like that remotely, and that's not been a problem. So I think generally it's more about how do you actually get people together. We miss that whole being able to bring people together, because part of it is the relationships, and there's something about meeting people in person, but at the same time, given the safety concerns and others, I think we put safety above everything else.
Amen. Amen to that. We're almost out of time here, Ashok and Mark, but I wanted to just, can you give us then maybe a time frame? I mean, it sounds like the integration really kind of almost predated, or at least the functionality integration of tools, not of the people, not of culture and all of these things, but the tools already kind of work together from what Mark is saying. Is there a time frame here for, I mean, will for instance, ArcSen, is that going to just be digital.io now? Will they retain a name separate and apart in the security space, or
I think what we are doing is, we have had, at least from a technology perspective, there is already some integration, but we're obviously going to make it more and more of a platform and make it easy for people to adopt. But immediately what we are doing is to, some of the things like in ArcSen, for example, will be, we want to make sure that customers, there's continuity for the existing customers, and ArcSen is a well-known brand within the security industry. And so we'll kind of say it's a part of the digital.ai company, and you'll see within a few weeks, we'll transition to kind of using more and more of a digital.ai. We'll have email addresses, we'll obviously reach out to the customers, and also we'll have some more different business model where people will have access to the rest of the portfolio if they have any of one of our offerings. So in that context, what's the on-ramps to different things, because sometimes it's DevSecOps from a capabilities is one thing, but within the companies, there are different silos, and you need to work with security separately, and you need to work with the chief digital officer separately. So we are putting together some of it in terms of that. But overall, I think I expect that the integrations will go very quickly. Our goal is to drive more of a outside-in integrations and customer outcome based, and not be having different silos.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Alan, I'll add this is absolutely a growth play. I think that there's a huge market. We've got a really interesting and differentiated platform when all of the capabilities come together. But each of the products has a meaningful customer base, installed base, and market in and of itself too. So you're going to see continued innovation in our core product areas. And also, there'll be increased integration between how they work and how they interoperate. So we'll have and we'll continue to innovate around the ArcSand security products. But because of that increased integration over time, people are going to find more and more value kind of coming on board with the platform view and vision because of the way the products operate and because of the value that you get from that combined solution.
Excellent. Guys, we're out of time. We're going to wrap it here, but Ashok, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of each other from what you're saying. And Mark, hopefully this is the start of a relationship where we'll have you on, semi-regularly here. And yep, I wish you guys success in this new digital adventure. And, best of luck and stay well and healthy, obviously, as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alan. It's always a pleasure to be on here, and I look forward to be on the show in the future again.
Absolutely. Ashok Reddy, CEO of Digital.ai, right? And Mark Lorian, who's now COO. Is that correct?
Yes.
Of the platform. Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Of platforms. Correct. Okay. So we were at a Zoom naming of our company here. Very happy to report it. And, as I wrote about earlier, this end-to-end DevOps journey is going to be one that's going to be exciting as we see various players bringing some great solutions to market. And it looks like the tools are coming together here. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com on TechStrong TV. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back with another guest.
Coding is no longer just about creating new and innovative features. AppSec is a top priority, and agile organizations are looking for ways to win at security without slowing down their release cycles. This means reconfiguring our mindset and shifting security as far left as possible, the coding phase. Join us at the Secure Coding Virtual Summit by WhiteSource on April 23, 2020. Hear from industry-leading practitioners, analysts, and thought leaders from the AppSec and cybersecurity realm as they share their insights, principles, and best practices to achieve better, secure software. Visit securecoding.com for more information and to register.
Okay, Alan Schimmel back here in the studio for TechStrong TV. So interesting news from Ashok. They bought a security company, which was something I had lobbied for the last time I spoke to them. And, and he made it very clear they're not done buying yet. They're in due diligence on several deals. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to close any of them, but they are in due diligence. They're going to still grow organically as well. And, this digital AI is going to be a player in the market. And going forward, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Certainly a competitor worthy in this market. And you know what? When you have strong competitors like this, it's really the market dynamics come into play where they have to compete with each other by being competitive on price and features, and we all win, right? Developers win, DevOps teams win, organizations win, because we get better tools at theoretically better prices as well. Speaking of that, our next guest is Sid Sijbrandij. Sid is the CEO of GitLab, and Sid came on to speak with us today. And really with the catalyst for it was an announcement coming out of GitHub. GitHub has just made you can now do Teams on GitHub for free, and which is a big jump. It's something that GitLab has always sort of done. But we're going to get into it with Sid. And again, I think it's a case where market competition benefits you. And it's a great thing. So without further ado, let's bring on Sid Sijbrandij, CEO of GitLab.
This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel for TechStrong TV, DevOps.com, and I'd like to welcome in a frequent visitor on our media ops sites, whether it be DevOps.com or virtual events or in-person events or what have you. Sid Sibrajani, CEO of GitLab. Sid, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alan.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you on, Sid. So, you know, I got to tell you, I tell people this all the time. When we ran Predict 2020 in January, as it turns out, you win the award for being the only one who predicted what is going to be a big trend in 2020. And yours was more and more companies are going to be working from home. So you win that one hands down. I don't know if you quite thought it was going to be a pandemic would be the catalyst for it.
I did not predict a pandemic.
Yeah, but you did predict more people working from home.
I love a more gradual approach. Thank you very much.
I think we all would. But nevertheless, that was, it was prescient. So Sid, we had you on today because of the blog post that you ran yesterday. It was a blog post, GitLab, Ryan, that was by you, and it was really kind of in response to an announcement we saw come out of GitHub. And, you know, for those on our audience who maybe are more on the security side of things, not familiar with DevOps and Git and stuff, you know, there's Git, which is now 15 years old, and it's an open source project. And it was originally set up as a code repository version control. And, you know, many companies use Git, that underlying Git open source. Of course, GitHub, which is now owned by Microsoft, has created, well, they have like 42 million or 41 million developers or such who have accounts on GitHub. And then, of course, GitLab, Sid, you guys don't make any bones about it, right? GitLab came out of Git, hence the name GitLab, and GitHub as well. Why don't you share with our audience, though you know the story better than I?
Yeah, so my co-founder made GitLab, and he made it because he wanted great collaboration software, and he didn't have any budget for it. So he said, "How hard can it be? I'll build my own." And he started, and within the first year, 300 people joined him and started collaborating with him, make it better. And GitLab is a single application for the entire DevOps lifecycle. It's still open source. Every month, more than 200 improvements in GitLab come from the wider community.
Yeah, and we usually document that every month or so as well, and we know that for sure. But, you know, I don't think you guys ever made any bones about, you know, the influence that GitHub has had, both on GitLab and in the wider market of IT and development. But let's talk about this announcement from GitHub yesterday. Why not, you know, in your words, what do you think why don't you describe it for the audience?
Yeah, well, it's great news for developers everywhere. GitHub announced that their free plan now allows you to have a team of people, and that they reduced the price of their team plan as well. So everyone on GitHub, either if you're on Teams, you're paying less, and if you're using the free tier, you're getting more functionality. So that's great, and we couldn't help but notice that they reduced the price of their Teams plan to exactly the same amount of money every month that is there. So right now, if you're making a decision on the lowest price tier, it costs exactly as much on GitHub as on GitLab. So that's good to see strong competition there, and developers are benefiting.
Sure. So Sid, someone smarter than me once said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. The fact that it's priced at the same number that GitLab is, at the same price point as GitLab is, and we can get into a features by features comparison in a moment, but the fact that it's the same price, I think says something. And also, just to kind of lay the foundation, prior to today, if you had a GitHub account, if you were an individual code contributor, it was free, right? It's open, free. But if you wanted to work as part of a team, you had to buy what was called GitHub Teams. So they've made that totally free, and I'm not saying it's crippled or anything like that, but it is a limited Teams functionality set for free. And then if you want to go to, over and above that to GitHub Teams, that's the same price as sort of the entry level GitLab. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think first of all, like it's great for everyone. It's now unlimited team members, and we've had that from the start. GitHub is now joining that party, and imitation-wise, we will be the last one to say something. GitLab was greatly inspired by GitHub, and actually in the beginning we developed GitLab on GitHub, so we owe them our development platform and the start of our community, and they're serving that role for a ton of open source projects. So that's great. If you look at the comparison now, we think you get some things on GitLab that you don't get for free on GitHub. So we're excited about that. For example, protected branches in private repos, draft, or we call them work in progress merge requests, GitHub pages for private repositories. Those things are free on GitLab and paid on GitHub. But today brought it closer. There's also the bigger picture where we want to do the entire DevOps lifecycle. We want to allow you to do that all within GitLab. So GitLab includes a ton more features, and we'll have a more detailed kind of comparison on our blog post. But with GitLab, you get more than twice the amount of kind of functionality you get with GitHub.
So I'll put forth this proposition. I don't think GitHub is done. I think at the end of the day, Microsoft and GitHub's vision is to make GitHub broad. I don't know if they want to match feature for feature to GitLab, but they do want to make more of a broadened feature set than just its original mission. Let's call it that. But Sid, look, I know you now how long? Probably 3 or 4 years, maybe, right? And and not only you, I've had the pleasure of meeting many people in GitLab as well as talking to many people in the community. This is kind of right up your alley, though, right? Because GitLab is a company that prides itself on putting out, it's an open book, literally, and here are our features. Here are our features, and here is what we do, feature by feature. You have that, there's a whole matrix there that compares. This is what GitLab does, and this is what, in each area that you guys play in, this is what competition does, right? So getting, now that GitHub is, as you mentioned, joined the party, now we could do a little bit more of an apples to apples, right? And see, here's what you get with GitLab that you don't get today with GitHub. And it crystallizes.
They're following our lead of having a single application. It used to be they were about the marketplace, and now since kind of 1 or 2 years, Nat, their CEO, did an amazing job adding verify and package and some secure features also to GitHub. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the most important thing that's happening in this market. And there's pros and cons to both of our offerings. We have a more extensive offering. GitHub has a very polished offering, and we invite everyone to do a comparison. We're starting a campaign, announcing our blog post. Let's compare the two, and let's have people write about that, and we'll hand swag whether you're positive or negative about what we do, but the comparisons will come. But I think the bigger, more important trend is that now this is happening. DevOps is not going to happen between 15 different tools. There's going to be a single application that does that. And some people are going to use GitHub, some will use GitLab. Microsoft will keep investing a ton of money in GitHub. So we think there will be a top contender with us. And that's great news for developers everywhere, because if you can do it in a single application, you can go faster from planning something to getting it out there. And it's, especially in these times, it's also an enablement for remote work. If you want to collaborate, you can't all hang out in meetings all day. You have to work asynchronously, and these tools really help with that.
Yep. And I'll tell you something, not to complicate things too much, Sid, but I think you also have to throw sort of Atlassian in here, right? Because Atlassian, for the most part, pursued that old GitHub model where, look, they had Bitbucket, they have Jira, they have their tools, but they were all about that third party, that Atlassian marketplace where third party folks do it. But they also tried to walk a very fine line of, being very friendly to their third-party tool integrations at the same time as developing their own tools that, competed with these third parties. You don't know this as we sit here and record this, but there's another announcement coming out today on another end-to-end DevOps tools maker that just did an acquisition and chose a new name and stuff like that. I mean, certainly I think the world is moving towards, hey, we want to be your total or end-to-end or whatever you want to call it, DevOps solution. But let me tell you who the real winner is, Sid. I think the real winner are the developers, right? Because you guys are now going to rock'em sock'em compete, matching features, pricing, right? Being competitive, and who wins? The developers and the users who are really, they're going to have to, it's going to be some tough decisions maybe, but they're going to have some great choices out there. So
great choices, and they get more for less, and that's what we want out of competition and out of companies.
Yeah, I mean that's the market, right? That's how market dynamics work. When they're working right, they don't always work right? But given a level playing field, but this one appears to be exactly. I think, as you say, you got to give credit to Natalia, Microsoft CEO, because they've done the right thing with GitHub. They have a great strategy, but they haven't so closely tied it to Azure or made Azure so unedible for GitLab, that you guys don't work on it. Azure remains neutral and open for everyone. So I give them their credit and due for this. Sid, so today we have this matrix. Here's what you offer. Here's what they offer. Comparable pricing. Where we go? Where's GitLab go from here to continue? It's nice for them to be playing. I always say I'd rather be 2 runs ahead in the bottom of the ninth than 2 runs behind. Where's GitLab go? Just to keep the edge.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're competitive. Like GitLab has the most features and the best deal, but most of all, it's about bringing that entire life cycle in. And for example, we just announced that we've open sourced 18 more features, not more than 2 weeks ago, including all the observability features in GitLab are going to have an open source component. So it's no longer just about version control and CI/CD and some packaging. It's about closing the loop, also knowing what you deployed and getting feedback about that, all within the same application. And that will allow great new use cases. For example, hey, if there's a dependency of you that has a security update, if that happens throughout the night, the software can just update itself, replace your production version, and if that doesn't work, it can roll it back and send you an issue to fix when you wake up. But in 99% of the cases, it's just going to fix itself. But for that, you need a single application, and that's where we're going, and we're super excited about that direction and about kind of all the support we're getting from the wider community who are contributing functionality and features.
I mean, Sid, but just sit back. Sometimes, even though we're working from home and we're fighting this pandemic, and I mean, there's so much going on right now. If you just take a sit back and what you just described, and I went back to, let's say, 1999 or 2003, and told a developer that, not just a developer, but a development team, that they're going to have that capability, it would have been like Star Trek-y to them. You know what I mean? I mean, you might as well tell them you're going to beam me up. It's a golden age to be, deploying software with these kinds of tools.
Yeah, and we need it. Like the whole world is becoming software, and we need software to collaborate, and that's what's happening. We've seen a great uptake also from small and medium businesses requesting trials for GitLab.com as they now go remote, but also because software becomes important in every business. It used to be the super large businesses that had software departments. Now it's hard to run a medium-sized business without doing in-house software development.
Yeah. I mean, we're a tiny business here. And it amazes me what we, try. I mean, just putting up this little broadcast video thing every day, streaming video, the glue that we had to do on the back end to make this all kind of work is more than I anticipated. I'll leave it at that. Sid, I appreciate you jumping on here and talking about this with us. I admire your outlook, right? Welcome the competition. Bring it on. It's going to make us all better. And not only is it going to make both you and the GitHub and Atlassian and everyone else better, but it's going to be good for your customers. And not even just GitLab customers, for the wider community of software developers and development, DevOps, etc. So I wish you the best of luck with this. Sounds good. We'll be watching those monthly releases, 180 to 200 every month of new features, and we'll be in touch. Hopefully, we'll be back on the road soon at some GitLab commits, maybe some virtual events or something.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, and looking forward to the 22nd when we'll have another release. Thanks so much for having me.
Every month, pandemic or not. All right, Sid Siverjani, CEO, co-founder, GitLab, here talking to us about what a great time it is to be developers. And with all you guys working from home and people worried about this disease, let's not forget that's going to pass, and we still are. We're in a great time to be doing software. Sid, take care, man. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. This is Alan Schimmel for TechStrong TV and DevOps.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back in a moment with another segment.
ContainerJournal.com is the leading online destination for centralized computing-related content. ContainerJournal.com covers all aspects of software containers, from container management, data management for containers, container security, networking for containers, to the entire container ecosystem, Kubernetes, microservices, serverless, and more. ContainerJournal.com has the largest selection of container-related news, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.containerjournal.com to learn more. ContainerJournal.com is operated by MediaOps Inc., the team behind DevOps.com, Digital Anarchist, SecurityBoulevard.com, DevOps Connect, and DevOpsDozen.com.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel back here on TechStrong TV. Hope you enjoyed that interview with John Jeremiah from GitLab Commit. GitLab is a company that does a lot of things differently. And usually you'll find a company that does one or two things differently, but they do so many things differently. It really is. It's almost like a business school case. Anyway, though, let's move over to the news now. Got a couple things I want to bring to your attention before we move on, because we do have a long show today. First of all, I wanted to highlight on Security Boulevard, hackers are using APTs to exploit COVID-19 fears. Surprise? Shocking? No. I mean, they'll use everything they have, and COVID-19 is fertile ground for them. So, like we didn't have enough to worry about and be on guard about, we now have to worry about APTs based on COVID-19 kind of themes. Secondly, on Security Boulevard, businesses skating on thin ice using third-party services. And really what this is in the rush to work from home, in the rush to adopt SaaS, in the rush to make everything work, a lot of organizations are adopting third-party services, perhaps without doing all of the due diligence that we normally would. And of course, this leads to potential problems. So have a look at that article. I think you'll find it interesting. On Container Journal, the CNCF has accepted a new continuous delivery project. And if you can read the article there, you can find out all about it. And VMware continues to make inroads in Kubernetes and containers, and they expand their Tanzu portfolio. One other thing I want to bring to your attention about regarding the news, and that is back on Security Boulevard, our Bob Resselman is starting a whole new comic series, and each quarter will have a different theme with 12 different 3 or 4 panel strips per quarter on that theme. This theme is on microservices, and it's a superhero theme like a good comic book should be. Go please check it out. The first one, or the first kind of episode, which really kind of lays the groundwork, is already up there. You'll see it on the screen here behind me. The artwork is great, the story's great, and if you're into geeky kind of superhero stuff like this, I think you're really going to enjoy it, so please check it out. With that being said, we're going to move on right now to our next segment, which is Working from Home with Jeremy Jones. Working from Home Fitness with Jeremy Jones. So put away the work for a bit. I hope maybe you're in your workout gear. Spend a couple minutes doing a little exercise. As usual, Jeremy's segment will be broken out separately on TechStrong.tv, as well as on our Amazon, Roku, and Apple TV channels. So if you want to do that later, or just have a look at it now, but do the whole workout later, feel free to do that as well. So without any more waste, let me go over to Jeremy Jones, Working from Home Fitness.
Hey guys, Jeremy here with Media Ops. Welcome back to our next in a series from our work from home workouts with Jeremy. So I'm not only our resident sales guy, but also our resident personal trainer, group fitness instructor. So guys, I hope you liked the first video. I'd love to hear your feedback. Again, you can email me at jeremy@devops.com with any type of feedback, anything you'd like to see in the future. Also, if there's anything that you missed, you can go back and watch it at techstrong.tv. You can download it at devops.com and on Amazon Fire, Roku, or Apple TV as well. So guys, we've got another great workout that I've set up for you guys today. First, we're going to go through our warm-up, which we've got 5 exercises here. Then we'll get into today's workout. Hope you guys are ready. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into our warm-ups. So just like we started with last time, we're going to start with high knee marches to start. We're going to just simply bring our knees up as close to our chest as we can. It's all right if we can't get them quite up that high. If you're only coming up here, that's okay. Everybody's got a starting point. We're going to try to get them up a little bit higher, up and into your chest. You can grab them, pull them in for a little extra. Once you get a little bit warmer, pull them up and into your chest. Next, we're going to move on to our arm circles. So we're going to go 5 big sweeping arm circles to the front. And on that 5th one, we're going to reverse it. Good. And 5. Next up, we're going to hit our alternating lunges. So again, you want to keep that momentum from pushing you too far forward. So you're going to step, take it down, alternating each side. And again, if you can't get your knee all the way down, not a problem. You go down as far as you feel comfortable. Okay, so these are designed to warm up no matter what fitness level you're at. So if you can't go all the way down, you go down as far as you can. I know a lot of us deal with some knee problems. They can't quite get us down as far. Moving up next, we're going to go feet widen the shoulder width apart. Extend your hands, reach down and rotate over and come as close to your toes as you can. Again, it's just important to keep those back legs straight. Rotate. You should feel that throughout your hamstrings And let's go one more. And good. All right, guys, last but not least, we're gonna go standing knee to elbow. Hands behind your head. We're gonna lift that right knee up. Try to touch that knee to your elbow. Again, it's okay if you can't quite get up that high. We really wanna loosen up those hips. Again, stretch out that groin. And we'll go another one. Good. Now that we're warmed up, let's get right into the workout. Okay, guys, really excited about this one. This is one of my favorite workouts that you can do. It's a staple of mine when I only have 15, 20 minutes to work out. Great at crunching calories. Here's the important thing. With everything going on with the corona, it's so extremely important to have strong respiratory, strong circulatory. This is gonna help us with that. So what we're gonna do today is what's called a Tabata workout. Tabata is simply 20 seconds, you're working as hard as you can, giving maximum effort. And again, everybody's output is gonna be a little bit different, but the effort should be about the same. So 20 seconds as hard as you can, and then you're gonna get 10 seconds of rest. Okay, so 20 seconds all out, then do nothing for 10 seconds, essentially. So this is gonna be a body weight circuit. So you guys know how this goes. We're gonna pick one piece of equipment for each of these that you can find around your home. Today's is gonna be our phone. So we're gonna set the timer. There are plenty of apps if you guys wanna download. There are a lot of great apps out there that have the Tabata timer in there if you need that. I'm simply gonna go off of my timer. So I'm just going to have it go continuous. All right, guys, we're gonna go over some of the workouts and we'll jump right into it. All right, guys, first exercise, we're gonna do a push-up. So for my beginners, we're gonna find a nice stable surface. We've got a nice table here. You can grab a chair. As long as it's stable, it's not gonna move too much. So you're gonna put your hands about a little wider than shoulder width. Tighten that core, slowly lower yourself. Now when you come down, you should be hitting mid-chest. Bring it back up. One more. Good. So you're going to do that for 20 seconds. We'll go through the entire thing in just a moment. So if you're a little bit more advanced, intermediate to advanced, we're going to take it down to the ground for our standard push-up. Again, nice base. We're going to keep that core tight. Don't let the hips come up. We're going to take it down into a push-up and right back up. Okay, so for my more advanced, you can increase the pace just a little bit more. All right, guys, those are our push-ups. We'll move on to our next exercise. All right, guys, on to our second exercise, mountain climbers. So we're gonna have the exact same position as our push-ups. For my beginners, again, same position, keep that core nice and tight. This time, instead of lowering ourselves down, we're gonna bring those knees into our chest. Knees into our chest. Okay, so again, make sure you've got a nice stable piece of furniture. Once you guys get going through the workout, you'll find the pace that's right for you. If you need to slow it down just a little bit, you could do that. If you want to go a little bit faster, find the right pace. For my more intermediate and advanced, we're going to take it down to the ground, knees into chest. And again, you can increase the pace depending on your fitness level, or you can take it a little bit slower. We've got 20 seconds to go through. So once you find your right pace, you'll be able to knock it out. All right, guys, for our third exercise, we're gonna hit our lower body a little bit. So we're gonna go with our body weight squats. All right, so we're gonna keep our weight back on our heels, hips go back, take it down. So when you're at this lower position, you should be shoulders over knees over the middle of your foot. If you've got a mirror there, you can check that out. So we're gonna take it down into our squats. So for my more intermediate and advanced, we're gonna take it down deeper into our squats with a little bit more pace. Deeper into our squats with a little bit more pace. All right, guys, 3 down, 2 more to go. All right, guys, fourth exercise, we're gonna be back into this familiar position for my beginners. We're back into our push-up position against our stable piece of furniture. This time, we're gonna bring our knee, try to bring it up into the elbow, up into the elbow. Guys, you're gonna start to feel this into your core. That's what this is working. We're not just getting our cardio, we're working that core. So for my more intermediate and advanced, we're gonna take it down to the ground, knee up to elbow, knee up to elbow. And again, find your pace, whichever whichever pace you find where you're working hard, but you're able to get through everything. All right, guys, one more to go. All right, guys, last but certainly not least, we're going to start working laterally. So we're going to do our sidestepping speed skater. So we're going to go side to side. So for my beginners, you're going to go a little bit slower. You're going to step across, go down to as far as you feel comfortable, bring it, step across the other side. So it's going to look like this. Okay? So for my more advanced, we're going to just pick up the pace a little bit, get a little bit deeper, get a little bit more explosive, jumping across. Good. And as always, again, find the pace that's right for you. All right, guys, let's go through the entire circuit now. All right, guys, now that you know what the exercises are, let's go through the workout. I've got my timer set up here. So when I'm ready to get going, I'm just going to hit start. So I'm going to work my butt off for 20 seconds, then rest for 10, then move right into my second. We're going to go through 1. Now for my beginners, I want you to try to get through at least 2. If you can do 3, great. For my intermediate, minimum 3. For my advanced, you're doing 4. So let me take you through the workout. Again, we're going to get going, starting it out with push-ups. Now I'm going to go through my workout, guys. So you do yours, because this is going to be individualized for everybody. So I'm ready to get going with my push-ups. So 20 seconds starts now. 20 seconds of push-ups. Again, pace is everything. So the way this is designed, we're hitting upper body, then we're hitting core, then we're hitting lower body, then we're hitting core again, and then we're throwing in one more cardio at the end. And 20 seconds, I'm just gonna pause here on my upper body, rest just a little bit. I've got about 5 more seconds before I jump into my mountain climbers. And we're ready to jump back in, so here we go. Trying to get the knees into the chest. Keep your back down. Keep your core nice and tight. Good. Find your pace. And don't forget to breathe. All right, guys, that's 20 seconds. Back into resting phase for 10 seconds before we move on to our squats. All right, now we're going in 3, 2, 1, and body weight squats. So you guys can hear I'm starting to breathe a little bit heavier. Again, we don't want to go all out because we want to be continuous. I'm sure when I started this, you said 10 seconds. You're only going to spend half your time resting, the other half working out, but absolutely catches up with you. All right, guys, we're going to get in position. We've got spider climbers next. Back into position, and 10 seconds is up. Get shorter and shorter every time. Good. Try to get that knee out to the elbow. Good. About 10 more seconds left. I'm gonna pick up the pace just a little bit quicker. At my last 3, 2, 1. Resting now. We're gonna finish it off with speed skaters. Whew. All right, guys. Remember on these, if you can, try to be explosive in your side to side movements. If not, don't go down quite as far. Good. You don't have to leap, but I want to make it a little bit more explosive. Good. Checking my time. Got another 3, 2, and 1. All right, guys. That's 1 round. This workout is no joke. Starting to feel a breather, or starting to breathe a little faster. So again, I want you to go through it 2, 3, or 4 times. All right, guys. Great seeing you. Be safe. Be well. Bye, guys.
Hey, back here, it's Alan, back in the TechStrong studios. Hope you enjoyed Jeremy's work from home fitness. Next up, we have managing editor Charlene O'Hanlon with Jim Rose, Circle CI CEO, about a big new round of funding over at Circle CI.
Thanks, Alan. Welcome back, everybody, to TechStrong TV. I am Charlene O'Hanlon, managing editor at Media Ops, and I am just about to have a great conversation here with Jim Rose, who is the CEO of Circle CI. How are you, Jim? Great to see you.
Thanks. Great to see you as well. It's Circle CI. That's absolutely right.
Great, great. So I understand we have you have some good news. You guys just came off another series of funding, and you got $100 million. That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. We feel good about where we are. Obviously, given all the kind of global uncertainty, it's nice to have some cushion built in as we're focused on building out the business, not just for the next 3, 6, 12 weeks, but ultimately for the next 3, 6, 12 years. And so it allows us and buys us some flexibility to really think about what we want to do strategically longer term, which is it's nice in these uncertain times.
Right, right. Yeah, I totally understand. So do you guys have any particular plans for the money longer term? Are you looking at some R&D, some strategic endeavors?
Yeah, so I mean, we're definitely investing across the board. We're making investments in a few different areas. One has been we've been in business for about 8.5 years, and we've always been focused on helping developers adopt CI/CD practices bottoms up. So developers anywhere in the world could sign up for Circle CI, basically add their version control system, hit a button, and start building. And over the last 8.5 years, developers from all over the world have used the platform. And so we've been really trying to formalize our global footprint so that we can do a good job in supporting those customers, irrespective of where they are. So we've opened offices in Tokyo and London, and we're building out those teams to make sure that regardless of your time zone, you have Circle CI employees kind of at the ready to be able to help you out if you have very specific needs that we can address. So that's one big area of investment. The second is continuing to invest in the CI/CD platform as a whole. So, we think about our world and the problem that we solve for development teams being really this idea of trying to validate change. So something happens upstream from your application, and you need to be able to build it, test it, ensure that it's good before you ship it into the data center and put it in the hands of the customer. And the sources of change for software delivery have just exploded. It used to be 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that the only way your software changed is that an engineer went in, made a change in code, and then committed that change. But as more and more companies have moved into service-oriented architectures, as they've more broadly adopted open source software, as they've externalized big services and big parts of an application to other third parties. For example, people don't build payment gateways anymore. You use Stripe or Adyen or someone along those lines. The source of complexity has really gotten out of hand. And so a lot of what we've been investing in from an R&D perspective is helping companies map all of those sources of change. And then when something does happen upstream, help them actually build and test it and validate it before it ends up with the customer. And then the other big area too is that this adoption of open source has created a really interesting opportunity and challenge for software teams. On the one hand, when you adopt open source components, it allows you to move so much faster, right? Like you can use open source software to basically do things that you don't end up having to reinvent the wheel. Like you don't have to think about how to paginate a website because there's 50 million out there that have already been paginated. You can just pull a component in a library down to help you do that. And that's fantastic. It means that development teams are moving so much faster and able to deliver value to customers so much faster. On the flip side of that, though, is it now means that you don't really control your code base the way you did in the past. You have all of these components that are constantly moving and in flux. And so you need to be able to model for that change as well. And the benefit of Circle CI is that we're a really, really big platform. So we build tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of projects a day. And all of those components are commonly shared across thousands of projects every day. So what looks like an individual transient change in your project when something moves looks like a big network event to us. So if one library changes and your build breaks, that can be really frustrating because you don't know where to look. But for us as a network, you might be one of 1,000 projects that broke at the same time, and we can go and sort of pinpoint where that change is and then help you remediate that and fix it as you go.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, one of the things that I've kind of noticed with the DevOps spaces, for all intents and purposes, DevOps was created to, or devised, if you will, to kind of help speed deployment of applications, but it almost kind of seems like the number and types of tools that have been introduced into the DevOps tool chains is really adding a level of complexity that I don't think folks thought about in the earlier days of DevOps. So do you think that the CI/CD market has kind of kept up with all these changes in the DevOps space?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So for the first 7 years of the company's history, we were really predominantly dealing with very technically sophisticated teams that were bought into the idea of continuous delivery and were very comfortable with all of the assorted tools and all of the assorted processes that are necessary to be able to build and test and ship very quickly. Over the last year and a half, what's happened is more traditional companies are realizing that moving quickly is very important for their business because more and more of that customer relationship is being mediated by a screen. And so
Right.
you need to be able to be responsive to the needs of the customer in that world. And so as bigger companies are starting to adopt these tools, being able to put all those pieces together and manage all of those pieces is really tricky and is really complicated. And so one of the strategies that we've taken is to try and package all of those various pieces together so that instead of having to, again, constantly reinvent the wheel, there's this entire library of pre-built components that you can pull in and basically glue together so that you can build a best practices CI/CD pipeline without having to do the work. It's a technology that we call Orbs. It kind of operates the very similar way that Ruby Gems operates on the software development side. It just happens to be in software delivery because we think that that's a real problem that folks are struggling with, and these pipelines are getting more and more complex, more and more complicated over time. And so trying to create ways to templatize and bootstrap and manage those pipelines is really important.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And when we're talking about CI/CD and kind of its role in this whole, especially as these tool chains do become more complex, where do you, well, I should ask, do you see CI/CD becoming more important? I mean, has its role changed over time? And if so, why do you think that, that it has? I mean, is it, where it stands in the tool chain, or is it, just what folks are using it for, or what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely has become a centerpiece to your overall DevOps strategy. And the reason for it is kind of, there's a few big trends that have happened just generally in how you build and deliver applications that have put more and more pressure on the automation chain.
Mm-hmm.
So what we typically find with customers is that you go through these digital transformations in 3 steps. So the first step is moving applications out of on-prem data centers and moving them into the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And the net result of that is that development teams now have instantaneous and almost infinite access to compute power and resources, which is really both intoxicating and powerful.
Right.
On the flip side, then upstream, what you find inside of many companies is that your software assets are spread out all over the place. And most big companies don't have any idea where the majority of their applications even live.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go through this process of trying to bring more and more of those applications together in fewer systems because it gives you better visibility. And especially in a world where companies are trying to decompose these big historic monolithic applications into smaller services, being able to see all of those in one place is really important. So now you have instantaneous access to compute, which is amazing. You don't have to worry about filling out a ticket and sending it to IT and then waiting to get boxes racked and getting availability to it. You could just, it's an API call away. And now when you start to put these applications together inside of a Git-based system, your developers can start working in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And you're no longer in a kind of a serial development mode. So your velocity just goes way, way up. And so those two things happen. And then all of a sudden you realize that the tooling and the processes that you've had in place in the past weren't really designed for this high velocity modern approach, and everything starts to gum up and everything starts to slow down. And if there's anything true about tools with developers, is that developers don't want to see the tools, right? You only want to know about the tool when you have a problem and you want it to pop to the foreground. Otherwise, you just want to stay in flow, and you just want the tools to basically do the work in the background and do it on your behalf. And as those tools get overloaded, they're just in your face all the time. And that's why I think there's this big push to modernize all of your various flows and delivery, your delivery processes, because you have to. And especially now with COVID, with so many organizations now forced to go not just remote first, but go remote only, a lot of these manual processes and things that you've had in the past aren't possible, right? You no longer can have a QA engineer that pops their head over to the side and talks to a software engineer to figure out, like, what exactly were you trying to do with this? How do I build the test script for it? Now you have to automate all of those pieces. And so a lot of these projects are getting front loaded because you don't have a choice. And so it's an interesting time from a CI/CD perspective. The kinds of companies that are adopting continuous delivery practices today definitely weren't thinking about it 4 or 5 years ago. And now you're just getting, critical mass across the market.
Yeah, I see that as well. Definitely. We're seeing a lot of companies that, never even would have had the conversation a couple of years ago are now jumping in with both feet. So I guess that's good for the industry and as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, we think it's good for the industry. I mean, we're definitely a strong proponent of a rising tide raises all the boats. Like the more people that really think about kind of modern continuous delivery practices, whether you purchase from us or you use some other service, we just think in general that's good for everyone. I think the other thing that's interesting from our perspective is that when you look at all the DevOps surveys, you find that developer happiness tends to be much, much higher in continuous delivery environments where you have tools that are helping extend your value. They're basically taking away all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting, and you're automating all of those pieces so that you can really focus on the piece and the part of the application that's interesting to you and adds value for your customers. And so with all of these practices getting more adoption and just sort of broader adoption inside of companies as well as across the industry, I just think that's just a net positive for everyone in the software development world.
That's great. Yeah, I would agree 100%. Well, Jim, I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I do want to thank you so much for having the conversation with me today. And congratulations again on your funding.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah. Okay, stay tuned for more TechStrong TV. We got lots more coming up.
Disruption is occurring across every aspect of IT. Open source, cloud services, DevOps, and cloud-native software architectures are democratizing IT and radically transforming how business is done. The old ways of creating software and doing IT are being replaced with agile, flexible, faster, and cheaper methods, benefiting vendors and users alike. Accelerated Strategies Group is out to democratize access of industry expertise and knowledge. We use our expertise and experience to offer insightful, intelligent, useful information in a variety of formats relevant to the IT community, digital events, videos, reports, assessments, workshops, and implementation projects with tech vendors, IT organizations, and business leaders. We widely and openly share our work products, often for free. Analyst reports these days aren't worth more than a graph or chart that tells a story or illustrates a market trend. We work with developers, DevOps teams, cloud architects, security engineers, and transformation leaders most every day, creating and implementing transformational strategies and technologies. We're not just thinkers, we're also doers.
Hey, thanks, Charlene, and congratulations to Jim and the whole Circle CI team. It's easy to throw around big numbers and we don't even really think about it, but $100 million is not trivial. And when you look at the rest of what they've raised, Circle CI certainly has the gunpowder here to be a real player in CI/CD. And it's not just money; they actually have a decent team, great product, we'll be following them closely in the weeks and months ahead. Now it's that time of the day where we head over to the analyst corner for a chat with Mitchell Ashley, CEO, co-founder, Accelerated Strategies Group. Mitch, take it away.
As we're all thinking about how our economies are going to start to recover, how we're going to reopen for business, of course, it's different. Companies are in different places depending on their location in the world or their global nature of their company. So I expect that we're going to see a lot of variation in how that happens. But it certainly is a big question for all of us. And of course, underlying all of that is safety for employees, safety for customers, all of us. And that's going to be fundamental, I think, to people re-entering the marketplace, whether it's as employees or consumers. I think one of the areas that we can look at is organizations, businesses that operate at least partially in China. Now, whether you can trust, and I don't mean to get into the politics of all of those things, whether you can trust all the information coming out of China in terms of tracking, numbers, stats, et cetera. I think we can look to companies that have operations in China that have started to reopen and how they've gone about that, what's succeeded, what's worked, and what hasn't. So I think it's a great area to pay attention to. One good example is that Walt Disney with their Shanghai Disney Resort has reopened. Of course, it's very different than experience than it was before, where there's very limited hours and capacities of people that can go into the park. And of course, they're wearing masks all the time, which is more conducive to the culture there. But of course, they have to remove those masks for eating. So there has to be design of their restaurants and areas to be able to do that with appropriate separation of people. Also, to get in, visitors have to take a temperature check. That's something we're used to doing in the US, but I know from going to China myself, certainly you see that as you enter and leave the country. But also a QR code that's issued by the government in order to get into the park that indicates that you're virus free, which implies a pretty rigorous testing regime to know who has had the virus, who hasn't, and what's safe to do. But I think underlying all of this, going back to reopening our economies, opening for business, and we talked to going back to normal, I think it'll be anything but normal. You know, it'll be a new normal, but it's not going to feel normal. I don't expect it to be anyway. We're going to have testing regimes of some kind, new kinds of testing. We're looking for new treatments, and of course, hoping for a vaccine at some point in the reasonable future, but still is probably a year plus out. Any start that we have of reopening our economies are going to be fragile, partial fits and starts. It's not going to be a smooth process, and I expect us to move forward, a step back two, or sometimes two and one back. I expect we'll see things like rotating shifts. Of course, businesses operating at half capacity, showrooms, stores, restaurants, staggered entrance into those facilities, reduced seating, of course, lots of plexiglass, ways of separating people, huge reliance on to-go food and curbside delivery. Maybe we'll have temperature checks in the US. Haven't seen that yet, but it very easily, at least I haven't, very easily could see that happening. A lot more online ordering, delivery options, and an emphasis on dependability around those delivery options. So we know that we can count on certain timeframes, goods and services being delivered to our businesses and our homes. But we may still have things that don't have anyone involved, any customers directly involved, like sports activities. We're still talking about sports stadiums with no spectators. We'll see if that really happens. Of course, I think our manufacturing lines, assembly lines are going to be running at slower capacity, maybe because of social distancing, maybe because of supply and demand, or also supply chain issues. There's even talk I've seen of redesigning office spaces into 6-foot designed office space. Of course, that won't happen by summertime for many businesses, but maybe that's a thing to come. I think one of the fundamental things, though, that we should expect for our own businesses, for our customers and our employees, is much more transparency in our practices. Things around cleaning, disinfecting, handling of goods and services, food handlers especially. Frankly, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen some industry trade organizations come out with really strong statements about how their industry is protecting against infection, from the virus. So a real good example would be just in the food service industry. It'd be a great place for an industry trade association to step up and say, these are the standards we are all going to follow as the minimum standards, and maybe even a program to say we meet this standard. So going into that restaurant or picking up food from a store or whatever it might be, that they comply with that. But also I think corporations are going to be put in a place where they may have to do some kind of programs to assess what virus state you're in, post or pre or during coronavirus infections. And that'll be an interesting challenge for companies of, do you test your employees and how that might work. So there's technology being developed. We're going to talk later about the announcement between Apple and Google around tracing, tracking, contact tracing. But we just have an unknown future that we're walking into and creating as we go. We'll see what the summer looks like, what the fall looks like. There's talk of a resurgence, hopefully not a big one. But I think a lot of it, at least for the US, is going to be how test driven are we going to be or not. And right now, at least at a federal level, again, not getting into politics, it doesn't look like that's a strong possibility. So again, let's look for those analogs of companies and other situations where we may be able to learn, not just from China, but across the world, as all of us work on how we rebuild, reopen, and grow our businesses, bring our employees back to work, rehire them, and build back our relationship with our customers and demonstrate to them that we take safety seriously and we take their safety and livelihood as primary. I wish you the best as you do your planning. And of course, we'll be talking about more of those activities, ongoing basis, sharing learnings with you, what we see from working with technology companies and how that's transforming through digital technologies and not. So I wish you the best.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
All right, thanks, Mitchell. Moving right along, I want to now introduce my partner, CEO of DevOps Institute, Mrs. Jane Grohl. Jane, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope this video finds you safe and healthy and taking this pandemic quarantine time to expand your skills and certainly to grow your knowledge. So it's hard to believe we're in the middle of April, right? Where did this time go, particularly because many of us have been locked down for a month or more? Well, at DevOps Institute, we've declared April as Value Stream Management Month. Why? Well, at the end of the month, we're hosting the first in a monthly series of micro-conferences known as Skill Up Days, and our first topic is going to be value stream management. So each of the Skill Up Days is going to focus on a specific practice related to some aspect of DevOps. And so value stream management is the first, and as a result, we've really declared April as being Value Stream Management Month. But why value stream management? Why make that the first topic in this monthly 8-month series that's going to look at situations like Kubernetes, SRE, observability, CD ecosystems, and such? Well, the answer is pretty clear, and I think it kind of lends to why we also want to declare this month as Value Stream Management Month. Every DevOps journey should begin with understanding how value is created. And so if we look at value stream mapping, value stream management as the first step for any organization to take as they start to embark on a journey to deliver software faster, more frequently, and of course with high quality, then starting with value stream mapping makes a lot of sense, right? How do you know that you're delivering value? How do you know where value creation actually occurs if you haven't gone through the exercise of understanding flow, right? Understanding not only the activities that are part of your value stream, but the time between activities, the delays that can occur between activities. And value stream mapping as an exercise has always been a social exercise. And today when we're exercising, no pun, social distancing, how do you kind of get into the workout that really is value stream mapping? Well, value stream mapping as a social exercise to me is really fascinating because it isn't done in isolation. It's not like you put two people in a room with a bunch of sticky notes or a Trello board or something along the same lines, and suddenly you decide what your value creation flow looks like. It's not that way, right? The best way to conduct a value stream mapping exercise in the past, perhaps in a physical room, today using some of the virtual capabilities, is really negotiation, discussion, sharing knowledge, understanding process, understanding automation. There's so many elements that go into the creation of your value stream that is very human-centric. And, at DevOps Institute, our mission is to advance the humans of DevOps. So again, kind of looking at value stream management, value stream mapping as our first micro topic, I think makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about value stream mapping versus value stream management and how one is certainly a feeder to the other. So every organization that's starting on a DevOps journey should start, they don't all do, but they should start with a value stream mapping exercise, preferably with a skilled facilitator, right? Somebody who could draw that out, somebody who can navigate through the negotiation, somebody who understands at what level the right level is in terms of how deep and how granular you get with all of these activities. And then, of course, a skilled facilitator can help interpret a lot of what comes out of the value stream, and particularly as far as where there are constraints to flow, particularly where there are really glaring opportunities to increase the flow of the value stream, and also to understand value creation. We talk a lot about value. That word comes out so much. Historically, when we talked about ITIL, I come from the ITIL background, right? We want to create service value in the form of services. Value stream mapping comes out of, a lot of the guidance from Lean. Certainly has been a feeder to DevOps. So we use that word value a lot, right? Like we use the word culture a lot. And at some point there's almost like a surgical definition of value, the same way there's sometimes a surgical definition of culture, as if we can magically create value for our customers. And the reality is we don't know, right? We don't know how we create value, and sometimes our assumptions are wrong. And so a value stream mapping exercise, I think, tends to peel away some of those assumptions, peel away some of our inward-looking perspectives, and taking an outside-in perspective as well. As my friend Mike Orzen, who's going to be one of our key speakers at the April 30th Skill Up Day on value stream management, says there's really only two places in the value stream that you create value. Do you know what those are? Right, think about it for a minute. There's only two places that you really create value. Well, the answer is kind of interesting. It's the first line of code, right, is the first place you create value. And that's because you've taken a concept, a theory, and started to create something tangible. The second time that you create value is really the first time that someone consumes your service or uses that feature, right? Actually does something with what you've created. And again, if you kind of look at your flow from first line of code to when a consumer, right, a customer uses that service, those as the benchmark of where you create value, then everything else before, during, and after has to support that, right? And that's an important part of your value stream as well. Mike also says there's actually only two metrics that count. And this is interesting to me because it's not necessarily saying that in value streams there are only two metrics, but there are only two metrics that count. And those are speed and quality. And you can break those, granulate those down into other metrics for sure. But as you're starting to look at value stream, your value stream, right, which should really be the center of your DevOps universe, from a speed and quality perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? How fast can you deliver value to your customer, and what's the quality of your creation, right? And that will be how your customer perceives value. So lately, we've been talking a lot about value stream management, as much, if not more, than value stream mapping. And I think there's a good distinction. And I know that on Skill Up Day on April 30th, Mike's going to talk a little bit more about that, along with Sharon Alvarez of T-Mobile, who's going to talk about the culture of value stream management. Jack Mayer, one of the authors of Standing on Shoulders, formerly with Nationwide, is going to explain more about it. Helen Beale's going to talk about metrics. And certainly Mike's going to help us understand the difference between the two. Well, like most exercises in IT, sometimes what happens is that we go through an initial planning phase. We go through an initial stage where we create something. It could have been a business continuity plan. It could be a strategic plan. And then we kind of check it off and say, hey, that was great. Now let's move on. And somehow that gets parked. It's never looked at again. It's some checkbox on a checklist, and it's not actually managed against. And in understanding the delivery of value, that's a shame, right? That's a shame, because you've gone through this exercise of trying to understand your flow, of mapping your flow, of understanding where there are great opportunities to increase speed and or quality. And then you put it away. Right? Then you put it away as something that we did and we move on. Well, value stream management ensures that that's not the case. And there's some great tools that can help you support the management of your value stream, some of whom will be sponsors on Skill Up Day. There's a lot of great tools. There's a lot of great guidance on how to manage your value stream. But at the end of the day, the important message there is your value stream has to be managed. Right? Understanding it, visualizing it is awesome, right? Doing something about it, right? Looking at where there are constraints, looking at some of the delays maybe between activities, looking at handoffs, and then looking at the people, the process, and the technology aspects of your value stream, and identifying how you can make those go faster, how they can be used to increase quality, right? And how your creation of value to your customer is really, no pun, valuable. So again, I can't tell you that I'm an expert on value stream mapping or value stream management, but I can tell you there's a whole bunch of experts that will be joining us on April 30th for the first Skill Up Day, virtual Skill Up Day, hosted on an amazing, cool conference platform with all of the elements of a replica live conference. And so there will be a lot of opportunities for you to really put value stream management under the microscope at our micro conference. So I invite you to register. It's free, www.devopsinstitute.com. You can find it under our event menu. I invite you to register for this one. We have one coming every month, and there's some surprises that will be introduced as far as our Skill Up Days very, very soon. So again, April is Value Stream Management Month, right? Read a blog, go to our website, look at some of our content about value stream management. We have Skill Up Minutes, we have blogs. Our ambassadors have been awesome about contributing content. Look at some of the tools that are available on the market, and then join us on April 30th for the first virtual Skill Up Day on value stream management. Again, this is Jane Grohl. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that your organization is doing well, your colleagues, your families, and I look forward to talking again next Wednesday. Take care.
Okay, Alan Schimmel back here in the DevOps.com TechStrong TV studios. Guys, it's been a heck of a day today. You know, a lot of these interviews really came about kind of last second. And kudos to Paul Gustafson and Brian Yaskulker and the rest of our production team here at Media Ops. We had to burn the midnight candle to get this stuff up and ready for you all today. I hope you enjoyed it. It's some big news. The DevOps, market, pandemic or not, continues to be red hot. Money coming in, competitors, upping the ante in their games, and everyone ready to bring their best to the market. So it's going to be an interesting few months, years in the DevOps space. We're going to try to bring it to you day by day here on DevOps.com as well as on TechStrong TV. Stay tuned for tomorrow's show. We'll be back. But until then, this is Alan Schimmel for TechStrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network. Have a great day, everyone.